Welcome, Dadas all over Kenya and East Africa. We are so glad you are watching us on KBC Channel 1. It's Sunday, 4 p.m. Hello. Thank you so much for watching us. As always, we talk about matters, women, everything. If you're a woman and if you're a man, we welcome you. We are not gender insensitive, but this show is for women. And I wanted us today to talk about going abroad, living abroad. What does that look like? When I was growing up, everybody wanted to go and live abroad. I think today, many of us probably think that our solutions lie elsewhere, that if we leave this country, if we go somewhere else, things will be better. So today I'm joined by Nimoh Mathenge. Hi, Nimoh.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm great,
You look amazing. You actually look like you lived abroad.
You're too crazy.
You do look like you lived abroad.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I guess that's a good thing.
I know. Very nice poise. Very nice. You know, sitting upright. The Muzungu taught you nice things. Crossing your legs properly.
You're gonna go there.
Not like the rest of us. Miros, how are you doing? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Pauline. It's so nice. You actually reminded me. You took me back to Joy Bringer's Mrs. Furaha. I used to love watching that show. So when you just started, I was like, oh, Joy Bringers. It just brought a lot of memories.
Is that how I sound?
That's a good thing because it's great memories. I used to love that show, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
How are you doing? Tell us a bit about yourself.
So, gosh, I don't even know where to start. I'm a filmmaker. Actually, I always wonder what title, because people are all about titles. I don't even know whether these titles, whatever. I'm a Black African woman. I love priding myself in that. Okay. My background is in film and television. I started out musical theater in school, and I remember my first experience actually being on stage is singing with Our Help. And I was 7 years old, and then I started writing a lot of scripts, and eventually I became a filmmaker. Long journey, I'm sure we're going to get to talk about it in this.
So, did you, okay, I don't want to go straight to living abroad, but when you were growing up, you did want to be an artist or, you know, did you think you would become a filmmaker?
I didn't know what it was called, but I knew I wanted to be in front of the camera. I mean, I would always imitate the news because then news was what was prominent. Yeah. We had, of course, Kipindi cha Toto. I'm trying to remember all the shows when I was in elementary. It was
Joy Bringers.
Joy Bringers, of course. So I would...
God be seeing you.
She's a great woman. So I would always imitate them. Like even the news, when they say who they are, and they say their name, I would repeat that. I would always sit there and repeat. So I knew I wanted to be in media, but I didn't know what that was called. I knew I always wanted to tell stories because even when I would actually force my siblings to sing and perform in church, of course, would always perform. So I knew I was the arts and whatever that looked like or whatever it was called, I wanted to be part of that world. Okay. So at the time, I didn't have a name for it, but it was the arts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So where did you go to school? I'm sure you went to the university.
Yes.
You just look like the kind of girl who went to the university.
Who's educated.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents are very pro-education.
Okay.
They've always emphasized education is important, and for that I'm really grateful to them because of course I went to Nairobi Primary. Oh. Actually, I started out in Consolata Primary School, then went to Kilimani Junior Academy, then went to Nairobi Primary.
You sound privileged.
I do. Gosh.
Did you grow up in privilege?
That's a tough question to ask.
No, well, your parents put their back into education. Like
they did. They really invested in that. They really sacrificed because, of course, they had their hardships financially, but to them, education came first. So they took all of us to really good school. Then I went to Moi Nairobi Girls, and then from Moi Nairobi Girls, graduated, went to Daystar. That's why I did my undergrad, and then from undergraduate, that's when I left the country to go to Howard University, and then Harvard. After that.
You went to where? Harvard?
Howard and then Harvard later on.
Hey, okay. Harvard,
long journey.
Like the Harvard.
The Harvard University. That's where I did my graduate education, yes.
Okay, let's talk about going abroad.
Yes.
When did you think now it's time to leave and go up? What made you leave?
So I think I of course, at the time, TV was all about shows from outside the country. I mean, I'm sure you remember that. Heart to Heart, Different Strokes. Sanford and Son. Gosh, now I've aged
Oh my
myself,
God, Sanford
because now
and
everybody will be
Son.
like, this chick is old if
know.
she's here. So those are the shows, and they were all
Can I sidebar you?
Yes.
Sidebar?
Yes.
Nobody knows what you're talking about.
exactly. That's why they'll be like, this is a dinosaur right here, because we have no idea what she's talking about. So those are the shows. I mean, all our shows were imported, and we would only liken ourselves when you're talking about scripted shows. Everything was outside the country. So of course, you're only thinking about outside the country. Given we had Vitimbi later on.
We did have Tausi.
We had Tausi that
We
came
had
later
Vitimbi.
on.
If you think about it, actually, KBC was the only. Let me plug KBC.
Plug KBC.
KBC were the only ones who are
Yeah.
actually doing anything local.
Yes.
When you think about it.
Yes.
They were the only ones who were doing local productions.
Yes.
So it was Tausi and Vitimbi
And Vitimbi.
and you know, those kinds of things.
And fun fact, I remember there was an American company that came to the US, and this is where I really started solidifying my going to the US. And we were doing stories about people in Kenya whose lives have been transformed. And Masanduku, if you remember
Yes,
Masanduku,
I do.
was one of the people who was picked.
Yeah.
Now, my job was to do the reenactment of the story. So we would follow Masanduku, we would do his interview, and then I would actually look for Kenyan actors and would reenact them. So I got to go to a KBC set when they were doing Vitimbi, was it Vioja Mahakamani, one of the shows.
Yeah.
I was so fascinated because when they sat there and it's like, okay, where sasa simama hapa na simama hapa alafu wewe huyu atakuja ibe twende. I mean, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so fascinating. And that's just how we used to do it. So, but going back to your question, I always felt going to the US would be what would enhance my career.
Yeah.
I got to work with KTN, but it was on working in the news side of things. I worked for Good News Productions. At the time, I can't remember what show they were shooting. Oh, we did a film. It was a movie that we shot.
Okay.
I won't say what it is because people will start Googling and looking for it, and I look like a bad woman.
In that show.
Yeah, I won't talk about it.
What?
It's a movie we did with
Okay.
Good News Production. It was really good. The story was amazing about high school and teenage pregnancy.
Okay.
And I was the doctor in that, convincing her not to abort. Crazy. Then when this company, it's in Virginia Beach. You know the company. Why am I blanking on the company? Anyway, they came. They shot Turning Point. CBN.
Yes, CBN.
CBN came into town. I got to work with them. I created networks, and that really solidified my leaving the country.
Okay.
My father was very insistent that I needed to do my undergrad before I leave the country. So I finished my daystar education before I could leave.
Okay.
Yes.
So off you went.
Off I went.
Okay. So
To
when
this
you
unknown
left,
land.
When you left, what were your first thoughts? What were you going to do abroad?
Film. For me, I was going to meet Will Smith and all
You were
those
going
people.
to change the world.
I was going to change the world. For me, I knew I'm not going to stay long. I'm going to go and come back because I could already see the gaps and the inconsistency of our industry.
Yeah.
And my passion was always go learn, come back, equip. We need to create studios and buy cameras. You know, of course, at that time, you're just thinking we need equipment, we need this and this. And I had worked on set here in Kenya. So I knew go work, come back, go to school, do my master's, come back and change the world here.
Yeah.
So I went to do an MFA, a master's in film at Harvard University. So for me, I was so geared to that. That's that is what was going through my head.
How did you pay? Did your parents pay for your education?
My father, God bless my parents.
Did he sell all his land and everything?
Everything. I mean, my parents really struggled. Like I said, they still are very big on education. So they do a lot of sacrifices. Then they did a lot of sacrifices. Of course, did Harambe. Then it was doing Harambe to send your child abroad. Sell whatever it is you're going to sell. And then go tell your child, sorry.
Please.
Please.
And
we'll
then
be
did they take you to the airport?
They took me
With
to
the-
the
with the-
airport.
with the
Oh my
whatever, with all
goodness.
your relatives.
What for me was really, really heartfelt. Till today, I remember my dad reading Psalm 23. My mom was there praying, and they said, they both read it to me and told me, this is what is going to guide you when you go to the US. Still today, I remember that. And at that time, you have no idea. It starts hitting you, and reality is hitting you, leaving your mom and your dad, and you're going to this land where they don't even know what it's about. My brother, at the time, my younger brother was already in the US, so that's the only other person that I knew I'm going to to hang out with and stay with. But again, it's a life you're going to start, you have no idea. You're green, green, green. Looking back, you don't realize how green you are because you don't even realize the challenges you're about to face and how life is going to be. So you're just going with that excitement. They prayed over me. Oh gosh, my mom, who's such a prayer woman, prayed over me. And they're like, we just give you God because this is who we know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were the first initial shocks when you landed?
The Americans talk really fast. And I'm like, what are they saying? You walk into a restaurant and you order stuff. You don't even know what that means at that time. You know, now at least we have fast food places here. So I think the next generation kind of knows what that looks like. We've kind of replicated a lot of the West. But the time you're going to a fast food and then they order something like, for here to go. What?
They're like,
yeah, sita here. I don't want that one. But it's, are you going to eat here or do you want it to go? Or you finish your food and they're like, do you want a box? No, I don't want a box. But the box is actually to pack your bag. I mean, there are all these things. And of course, the food. By the time your taste buds move from githeri and mukimo to this thing called a bagel that you can't be able to chew, because it's not being chewed to food that tastes different. Those are some of the culture shock, people talking in school. I remember professors, half the time you're like, the class ends, you're like, I have no idea what he just said. They're giving examples, they're so foreign. When I started working, I remember I would Google everything because people are talking and all you're hearing is blah, 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 blah. People laugh. And you're like, I don't know what they're laughing about. Then they move on to the next thing and you're like, okay, Nimoh, make sure you give us a report on that. On what? I have no idea what you're talking about. So you really have to catch up of course, the reference, people, whatever they're referencing to. Even in Kenya, we have that. When people start talking about Amkatwende and stuff, you have no idea. Yes. So of course, there when they're talking about the Three Stooges and you're like, what are they talking about? So you kind of have to catch up in some of these cultures. Yeah.
How did you feel? Did you, like, in what ways did you feel ill-prepared to have gone? In what ways do you think, I wish somebody had bothered to tell me about this?
Of course, you wish you meet somebody, and they're there. There are Kenyans who are there, who've been there 2 years or 3 years, to tell you it will take 2 years for you to actually get acclimated. 2 years. I don't know. That's a great question. Transition is, I don't know if people can ever prepare you, or you do have to walk through that journey yourself to see what works or doesn't work. You make mistakes. The whole credit thing, you get a credit card and then you don't know what that means. You don't realize you have to pay for it and you have to pay all these mistakes you make.
Hey, tell us about the credit card.
I know, right?
You people send these pictures, you furnished your homes, you know, with this.
Driving in convertibles, which are not paid for, but still have school loans.
Then we hear that you guys are living from Sijui. You took those things on credit.
I know.
How does that work?
I'll be honest, my brother was very good in preparing me with that. And that I think that is the mentorship you're asking. He had been there 2 years before I went, and those are some of the things he told me. If you're taking a credit card, maximum $200, so you can pay slowly. But a lot of time people get to take loans. They don't understand what the financial implications mean when you go take a loan or when you take things under credit. You don't pay on time, the interest rates. There's a lot of financial education a lot of people don't have, and you're so happy to take that $10,000 whatever and go buy a car, and then you realize, oh my gosh, this is a bad investment, or I don't have enough money coming in, so not enough going out. People are so ready to give you credit, because it's such a credit community. People are so ready to give you credit, but then they'll come after you to pay, and you end up being in such.
Is it difficult being an African? When you show
yes.
up? What are some of the just basic difficulties?
So that was also a shocker for me, starting with Howard. Howard is a historically black university. Gave me a lot of power. I had African professors, Professor Grima, Abiy Ford, who RIP, he passed away last year. Great Ethiopian professors who'd been there for years, so they kind of also give you what life is there. Among the African American community, you're hailed as here comes our African
You're from
sister.
Mother Africa.
Yes. And then there are also that question and rift that sometimes is there even with some African Americans, where they really want, why did you sell us away? And you're confused. Sell you? I didn't sell you. So you also, but it's a way of them trying to understand their history and where they come from. So there was a relationship there that I had to learn, that you need to embrace African Americans. African Americans had to learn, we need to embrace the Africans because we come from the same country. And the things that we go through in America or even the other country, in the West, are the same. Because when our person, say a white person or Caucasian person sees you, they're not seeing you as an African American or African. There's no section, you're a person of color.
You're
you
just
go through the same challenges that you'll go through. If it's racism, you're black, you're black. If you're a person of color, you're a person of color. Because it's not only the black people or the African or people who go through racism, it's people of color. So the Asians are going through the same thing. The Hispanics are going through the same thing. So you also have to recognize that. The American Indian is going through the same thing. So those are some of the things that I really had to understand and see what racism does. Now that came even more when I started working and started growing in the business, is when you really see racism and you see it in the ugliness of what it is. Yeah.
So you go through, did you have to work when you were in school?
Oh, yes. Welcome to America.
Work.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
You work all day and you're in school in the evening.
Okay.
So you wake up at 6, go to work at work by 8 in the morning because you have to leave at 4.
What kind of jobs were you doing?
So I started working for a credit card company. I actually started working for Visa. That was my first job, customer service. Visa International, this is Anne speaking. Then I used to be Anne. How may I help you? Your card is lost. And of course you have to put on the wing because you have no idea where you're from and stuff like that. Speak the different languages. So like if you spoke French, you get more money. You spoke Spanish. So that was my first actual job when I started working there.
You didn't start off as a waiter?
I didn't do that.
Really missed out.
Like this.
I think, because I told everybody must start off either pumping
gas or
becoming a waiter.
Usually those are the first job. For real, God bless me. God really blessed me. And I think also because I'd done my undergrad, so that really helped because they could say, oh, you already have a degree. So of course that also helps when you're getting jobs. Oh, I also I tutored in school as well. I remember teaching, it was comprehension and something. So I tutored also in the school that I was going to. So that was something else that I
So you worked, so it's quite hectic, yeah?
My first Thanksgiving and first Christmas and first New Year's, I was working.
Wow.
And it is cold. And of course you're far from family. Thank God I had my younger brother there. But you work. That's all you do. And I think this is where I've gotten my workaholicness, as you know. You work. There's nothing else to do.
There's a lot of working.
There's a lot of working. And then there's a thing of survival in America because you're thinking, if I don't work, I can't pay my bills. And then on top of that, you're also kind of paying for your school. Visa was very good in giving us like percentage off for our tuition. So then you have to also pay for the rest. And of course, you're paying for your car. Okay, we had little cars for 2000.
Yeah, you had small cars.
Yeah.
You know the one thing that Nimoh, we once talked and you said something about this, that in America you got used to very small houses.
Yes.
Like you walk into Kenya and people have these lavish,
glamorous, huge houses that are en suit. En suit.
Everything is en suit.
Yeah.
Tell people about that. Because all of us think that we'll go to America and live in like
Beverly Hills.
In Beverly Hills.
Yeah. That's where you
Orange
see
County.
Yeah.
But the truth is
Malibu. No. Especially if you live in the big cities. Because I lived in DC, Maryland area, Silver Spring area, which is very close to DC. And then I lived in Los Angeles. And then, of course, when I went to Harvard, I was staying in Boston, which is even smaller. The Matchbox is cut in half now, even smaller than that. And those are big cities. Those cities are super expensive. I mean, if you look at $800 apartment, that's probably where your couch is.
This is it.
This is it.
From here to here.
That's it, yeah. So, of course, if you want with a bathroom, then it's about $1,300.
So this one is $800 and the bathroom is outside, or where is the
I
bathroom?
know, right? You probably, it's there squashed, this couch plus you have a bathroom and the kitchen, you're like, this is it. So you'll find that Chicago, New York is really small. For the kind of rent that you can be able to afford, we actually joke they're matchboxes. They're very, very small. So you learn how to live like that. Given LA, we are outdoor people. So you're never spending, even though you're in a couch area, you're never spending indoors. Thank God, eventually, of course, as I started working, my house started getting bigger. Of course, it wasn't the Beverly Hills type of houses. I didn't get to live in Beverly Hills yet. But yeah. You get to survive that. Parking is ridiculous. You can't park anywhere. You never get apartment with parking. You have to pay for everything. So life is super expensive. Now, if you move outside the big cities, to the Tennessees or to the Alabamas or to the Kansas, you'll get.
If you move to Shago.
Move to Shago.
Yeah.
Even Texas is very beautiful. You find a lot of Kenyans living in Houston or in Austin, Dallas. They have big houses. Now you will walk in and you'll find the kind of houses or even bigger that we see here in Kenya. Yeah. Okay. Now they're far away from the cities. Yeah.
But you had to work in. You had to go, I mean, you went to Hollywood, didn't you?
I did. So after Howard, after DC, I moved into Hollywood, the heart of it all, because I really wanted to get an experience of what the film industry is like. So I moved to LA. Literally, the stories that you hear every day, pack your car and move to LA is what I did.
So you packed your car, you went to LA?
Like the movies. Kabisa, it was so cliche, it was hilarious. Like, I'm actually driving to Hollywood, and I did work in Hollywood, and that's how I started.
So how did you, I know you've worked for some really big, so some of the projects you've done in Hollywood include?
Go to Nimoh Mathenge, imdb.com. I know. Sometimes I don't even remember. I mean, I did work for the big studios, and that God really blessed me with that. So when I moved to LA, I started from the ground up. And I always tell people that, do not be fooled. You will start from the ground up.
What does the ground up mean? Did you have to get coffee?
Yes.
For people?
Heck yes.
Run and get coffee like the movies.
Run and get coffee. And the thing is, it's not just run and get coffee. You're elbowing yourself with other, and for me this was a shocker, other male, white, whatever.
Yeah.
And our time, now of course the sets have become more diverse, but I remember every set I went to, I was the only black woman. So, of course, who are you and you? What kind of...
And because you're African. Whatever. African. First of all, they didn't even know you're African. It's when they know you're African that they are even shocked.
Exactly. How did you come here? And then the questions you'd get. What do you do in an after? Do you sit on a tree? And I'll be like, yes, I do. In fact, my brother right now is hunting. Of course, you go with a story. But you get to work. I started out as a production assistant. I love these stories. I never used to like them because it was a hard job, hard work. You wake up at 4 in the morning, you're on set at 5 in the morning, sometimes you're on set at 4 in the morning. And because you're a production assistant, so you have to start. You're the first person on set, get to wear the walkie, get to the lingo, learn whatever the lingo is. And that's where, for me, I started using Nimoh because I realized I'm an African woman. Let me use my edge and call myself Nimoh because Anna will disappear. Chase the job. You're literally working hard so people can call you for the next job. Now, in Hollywood, one job will give you the next job. If people don't remember you for one job, they'll never call you for the next job. And that's how I worked my way up. I then got into a production company that does TV, TV film, then long form is what we used to call it then. Nowadays, there's no TV film, it's more of series. And I was hired to work under 2 executive producers. And those guys really taught me the business. They were horrendous. They were really tough on me. The crying on set, kind of tough. You work hot days. You know, America has very erratic weather, so sometimes you're on set, it's 90 degrees. In whatever, convert 90 degrees is what? In Fahrenheit?
Imagine, I have no idea. No?
That's probably 30. Oh, sorry. That's probably 30, 40 degrees. Here.
Okay.
Yeah. Super hot. You can't breathe, but you're standing outside. You're probably doing a car commercial or something. So got to really work and grow. And under these 2 executive producers, I really grew. Eventually, I was running their films. I was running their production company, and that's how I ended up growing in the business. Yeah.
So I know you worked for like Oprah.
I worked for Oprah Winfrey Network.
You must talk about Oprah and for Oprah.
I remember getting a call for that job. I was very excited, honestly. And for me, it was a double-edged sword. Because the people I worked for were pretty hard on me. And I think sometimes when I think back and try to talk about these things, I get emotional because Oprah, Miss Winfrey, as we used to call her, she's not Oprah.
Oh, she's called Miss Winfrey.
Yeah, we always reference her as Miss Winfrey, even when she calls it's Miss Winfrey. You don't, Oprah is on the line. No, it's Miss Winfrey or she's whatever. Of course, they give you this whole spiel. Don't go run into her and say, my mama loves you, my whatever. There's a lot of respect, which is what awed me. I
Like
really
respect to her.
to her.
She's
Her
an
people,
institution.
She truly is.
So
For
it's
me,
not, you don't mess around with that. You don't run up to her and
Right, but then people respect her because of the being that she is as well as a human. Because I worked for organizations and I worked under people who, even if they're powerful people, they're horrible people. But Miss Winfrey is a very respectable woman. She treats her people well. I worked for a very tough department, I'm going to say that. And those are some of the things I experienced racism under there. At Miss
Winfrey's.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm saying this in front of the camera.
At Miss
Winfrey, when you watch this, it is happening.
Miss Winfrey will never watch this. Don't worry.
She might.
We are deep in Africa. Miss Winfrey will never know.
It is happening there. I met some really amazing people. Got to really learn a lot about her shows. Some of the shows, like there was the Latoya Jackson show that we were shooting at the time. Yanla Van Sad show, who I love Yanla. The Essence Festival, I remember, was running at that time. She was doing her book tour, of course, at that time as well. Shooting Selma also at that time. So there was a lot of experience that I was exposed to, and I got to work frontline and first hand, and even with her team and her people. I got to meet amazing, amazing people there as well. Got to see how they do her publicity, got to see how they do communications, because that's such a big thing for Miss Winfrey. You have behind her production company, how does she carry her brand? That was super important. It was amazing experience, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to go to a break.
Yes.
We'll come back after Miss Winfrey and find out why after you are the height of your life. What are you doing back in Africa?
I'm African, y'all.
What made you come back? Because in my opinion, that you were riding the wave of Hollywood. You were doing well.
Yeah.
And I know that at that time you were even helping some people in Kenya. You were able to bring cameras down here to help some certain people. You were doing a lot of amazing stuff. Why would you come back? So we're going into a break. We'll be back with Nimoh and her story coming back to Kenya and what she's doing now. Welcome back, ladies. We have been talking about living abroad, and we are graced by Miss Mathenge.
Yes, it's still Mathenge.
It's still Miss Mathenge. Yes, and I think she's talking to all the people who might know somebody who might want her in the future. But Miss Mathenge, I forgot to ask you that you even worked for Disney.
I did. Worked for Disney, worked for Hasbro. Most people I don't think know who Hasbro is. Hasbro is also, they deal with, if you look behind the kids' toys, you'd see Hasbro. They have a production company, work for them. Walt Disney Company, I worked for Walt Disney Company, ABC, Disney Channel, all of that falls under the Disney brand, which was an amazing experience as well.
Okay.
I loved working at Disney. I really did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You're living my life just right now in Hollywood.
It was tough though, girl.
You've just lived my life like a whole century of my life, but it's all good. So what made you begin to think of coming back? What started that story? What did you start thinking?
That's a great question. So I worked, of course, there were ups and downs. Don't be fooled thinking that just working for those studios, it's all glam. And there were moments, low moments, where jobs end. I always remember the 2007 recession when we all lost our jobs. At the time I was working for a production company, there was the writer's strike. We all lost our jobs. I started a production company during that period.
Your own?
Yes. It was, sometimes you have to be dropped to the floor to wake up and realize, you know what, I can do this. I've been running and doing films. I know what it is like to write a script. I know what it is like to look for option deals, option scripts, books, and so forth. And you realize, I can actually do this. So I opened a production company, and for me, one thing that really was propelling me is that every time I would go in front of my boss, I would always have an African script that I want us to do. At the time, I wrote a script about the bomb blast in Kenya, 98, and because that's the time when I left the country, and I would always try to push for that script. But you're like, African scripts are not gonna sell. It's funny, Black Panther did. People always thought with an African lead, they're never going to be able to sell. Hey, we have Scandal now, we have Grey's Anatomy, we have Shonda Rhimes, Kenya Barris, all these people who have African leads that are doing very well. But at the time, nobody could see that. And of course, within me, it was always bubbling. I need to tell my African story. Cut to flashback, my professor, Halle Garima, was such a big proponent and pushing me into telling our African stories. And so for me, I would always remember that. Who am I? What kind of stories can I do? And so that really started making me look at the continent, our continent. How can we tell our stories? Me being here, knowing all these people, knowing the agents, I would call CAA because I had friends then. I'll be like, can you guys send me some of the African scripts that you have there, or writers? Who can I collaborate with?
Who are CAA?
Sorry, creative arts agencies. Now, William Morris Agency, Creative, these are the big agencies that are there that if you want to know who are the people and the players in the business, the agencies usually have and they represent. So a lot of times if you want to know what script is out there, the agency would be able to show you. And so for me, that really started bubbling something within me. Then I got a part-time job at a non-profit called Streetlights, where we would train ethnic minorities and people who had backgrounds where they were either incarcerated or were struggling with drug abuse, but had been clean for like a year or so. And this organization, we would train young people from, say, inner city, Los Angeles, Watts, if you've heard of all those places. And we would then get them jobs behind the camera. Like a lot of them would become cameramen, some would become assistants to like the SEALs and whoever, all these big people. And so I started thinking, see, in Kenya, we can do this. We can do this in Kenya. Why don't I go back and start creating something like this? Fast forward to, I get a job, again, part-time job at a school called Orange County School of the Arts, which is a school that really trains young people. It's an arts high school, kind of like what I'm doing here in Kenya. And for me, teaching documentary film in that school is what really opened up everything. Started meeting with the founders, started meeting with everybody, and really started seeing we can be able to build a school like this where we are training people from ground up, from the high school level. And for me, that I always say it's the Spirit of God was just working within me and start kind of pulling me back to Kenya. Like there's so much you have. You've been working in this business for over 20 years. There's a saturated place. How about going back to Kenya and really training people or bringing back some of these systems and setting them up in our country so that we can grow our business.
So you started thinking about coming home about what time? How long did it take you to move back?
Wow. So I always thought of this school, and I always worked on the school which I know you're going to ask me about this school about 12 years ago, but I didn't have a strategy of coming back home. But around 2014 is when I kind of started playing around with the idea of maybe I should come home. And at that time is when my dad passed away. And at that time is when you start thinking, my goodness, I need to go home. But that's the point where I feel like God even used that experience to really start stirring up my spirit. And I started looking what is happening in our industry, talking to people, calling them. I didn't know you at the time. I would have called you to help me walk back, finding out who are the players here, what does our business look like in Kenya, what is it like establishing a production company, a school. Yeah. So around 2014, 2015 was when I really...
Okay. So what were some of the things that you had to think about when you were coming back? Because I know you'd been away for a long time.
21 years, girl.
21 years. When you've been away for 21 years, what are some of the things? Because I know that people try and come back. I've had my relatives go, and they come back and they stay for 6 months, and then they run back to what they knew. They say, we don't understand the way things run here.
Yeah.
You know, you come here, you ask people, what do you do here? They say, tunangangana tu. So you are like, what is tunangangana tu? You are like, okay. So you struggle, you try and make ends meet, and then finally you're just like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll go back to what I know.
Yeah.
What did you have to consider to come back home?
I think as humans, we like familiarity. Yeah. Transition is very hard. And especially when you've been gone for that long. I remember saying, gosh, I don't know how to survive in Kenya. I know how to survive in America. Oh gosh, I do. It's knowing your familiar spots. Where do I shop? I always joke with my brother and I say, where is Walmart here where I can buy a nail cutter? I can't go to the kiosk and ask, ukona nail cutter? I mean, they look at you. But it's knowing your familiarity. Of course, where do I get a job? How do I get the job? How do you build your network? Like for me, network is really important. Hollywood, I know the players. I know how to get around, whatever. I know who's shooting what's coming up and stuff. Kenya, I don't. So a lot of people, whatever industry you are in, it's that networking you have to start again. You always have to start again wherever you transition. And that's hard. It's very tough.
Yeah.
You truly have to have a divine something guiding you as you're moving to that area. And for me, that's what it was. It was divine. God has really been working on me for over several years about moving back. So it has to be that. It's very tough. I'm not even going to lie. Transition is very tough to wherever. It could even when we moved to America, it took us 2 years to actually get into the system. So I don't blame your people. After 6 months, they're like, "Ooh, I can't do this. It's too hard."
Okay.
It's just transition that is difficult. And then diasporans, I think, and this is something I'm going to address, diasporans outside the country, whatever country, we have this narrative that we're told, "Oh, Kenya, my goodness, life has fallen apart." I don't know if we need to change the narrative of Kenya as a whole. We have a beautiful country. I traveled to Meru, went through Nyanyuki, went through Isiolo. It's not like I didn't know these places, but then when you travel and you see your country, even as an adult and looking back, you're like, my goodness, we have a gorgeous country. There's so much we can be able to do. At our age, we have to start figuring out how can we set the systems that have broken. We have education. And I think a lot of times we do not want to make that sacrifice. We want to stay comfortable where we are. So the narrative is a big thing that needs to be changed to the diasporans. There are things I was bracing myself. I come back, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as the narrative that's going around. It is life. This is our country. We need to love our country. We need to work to fix our country, to invest in our country, to attract businesses to our country, whatever industry. And I think that's the narrative that a lot of diasporans need to hear now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now that you're back? What? Because I know you're doing a lot of things. You've only been back, I think, for a year.
Yes.
And you really jumped into it. You're like, you came back and you started elbowing. People are like, what's happening? Who this? Oh, you know.
I know, I'm aggressive like that. And I think it's a product of where I've been created, where you, like I said earlier, you work all the time. So you used to always being on. So I started a school. It's called Zanats. It's based in Karen Village. It's going to actually officially start in January. And this school, we are going to focus on high school students. So between the ages of about 13 to about 18. So that high school, whatever high school is. We really want to equip the young people in understanding and knowing how to grow in the arts and be able to become creatives who can hold themselves in the business. That means entrepreneurs, giving jobs to others, be able to enhance our entertainment industry, create that ecosystem here in Kenya. I think the arts has really grown in Africa. Look at Nigeria, look at South Africa. We are really blossoming, we're growing. Let's revive back the Gadugu film festivals and create other film festivals. And not just the film festival, but the real essence and the depth of telling our story. Let's attract production companies now, like for reals, to come and see what we have as Africans. So our school is going to start with 5 departments: music, dance, visual arts, theater arts, and media arts. So we have a fantastic team. So I'm collaborating with people who are industry experts and truly delve into arts education.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a good place to start. What are some of the things that surprised you about the creative industry in Kenya when you came back?
Good, it's really grown.
It's grown.
It has grown.
Okay.
People are really much braver than they were then. People
Yeah.
are writing stuff and actually shooting and putting them up there. I love the younger generation. That means I'm not young. I'm young. But I like that our 20-year-olds and 19-year-olds are actually grabbing a camera and shooting stuff, putting them on YouTube. They're using the platforms that are free to show whatever it is, to tell their story in whatever format. It doesn't even have to look pretty or whatever. For me, that has really been such a pleasant surprise because people are actually doing and not just talking. I want to keep encouraging that. People write, put out content, whatever content that looks like, and grow. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to grow.
I think that's a beautiful thing about the young people.
Yeah.
Because they grew up on plan B.
Yeah.
They don't know anything else.
Yeah.
So then they just do things and then they ask later. Actually, there was a government, whatever.
Exactly.
Actually, there was education. You know them, they don't know anything.
Yeah.
They take a camera, they shoot their stories. They don't know whether they're doing the right thing or they're doing the wrong thing, they just go out and create stuff.
Right.
And which is really beautiful because then it gives you a starting point.
Yes.
But why high schoolers though?
Because I feel like at that point they are like sponges. They are going to absorb the lessons.
Yeah.
They don't have already existing principles that are hard to break down, because there's some things as a continent we need to grasp also. How do we, the fundamentals that people need to learn. Coming from Hollywood, there's some things I'm saying, okay, this is not working. The reason this foundation is weak, I mean, the reason why this pillar is weak is because the foundation is not strong. And I feel like from the high school level, you can start building the foundation. Like, let's start from the fundamentals. Let's create the systems that are missing so that you can be able to grow. So that when you are a creative, you can sustain yourself as a business person. This is what it means because your foundation is strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So right now, as we speak, are you still doing any production? Are you still, what are you in Kenya besides being, coming up with this amazing idea? Like, what else
I like
are
that
you?
you call them amazing.
Yeah.
So I worked on Soul Family. It was on Maisha Magic. I worked on Story Yangu. I was collaborating with another producer, executive producer who I'd met in the US. I am writing a few shows coming soon. Haven't talked about them right now, but there are a couple of films that I'm working on right now and I'm writing. So hopefully we'll get into development at least with one of them in coming January.
That's very nice.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back. So today, if you were to talk to the young Nimoh who left, I don't even know, 20-something years ago to go to America, what would you tell her?
Don't listen. And listen.
Let's start with don't listen.
Don't listen and listen. Don't listen to... We project a lot of our weaknesses and fears. And I feel like in my journey, I have absolved a lot of people's fears. And some of those things have kind of slowed me down in the past. And you realize, that wasn't my voice. That was somebody else's voice in me. That would be the don't listen. Like what we just said about the young people. Go take a camera, don't listen to people. But you see, the color correction, and just do.
So don't listen. So in the sense of don't listen, do you think that it's that thing of Lupita, your dreams are actually valid?
They truly are.
That you're sitting here and you have worked.
Yes.
In Disney, you worked for OWN, you worked, you were in Hollywood.
Correct. And there are many people who told me don't. It's going to absorb you, it's going to kill you, it's too hard. And it is. It is. Hollywood is hard, it will chew you, it will throw you, meet the con men, you do meet everybody. But go. See, that's a part of the person talking to me, they're pouring their fears. But don't listen to that, you go. But the listen to the wisdom of what you're being told. So you're sharpened and you're aware, so you're also not green and going to whatever. That's a part of listen. Listen to the wisdom. And then also look for who your mentors are, so you know those are the voices that you're listening to. Because I feel like everybody's journey is so different. If I sat down today and imposed my journey on somebody, it wouldn't be fair, because they're going to go through their own journey and they're going to experience things that are completely different. I went through a recession. They're probably not going to go through a recession. I got fired in jobs because I spoke up as an African woman, black woman. They're probably not going to get those repercussions. They're probably going to be promoted from those because of speaking up. So it's different times, different whatevers. But for them to sit and listen to the journey of somebody else is important.
Yeah.
But also be careful you're not absorbing other people's fears and they become your story when that shouldn't be your story.
Okay. When it comes to being an African, isn't this just the most amazing time to be black? Yeah.
It is. Oh my goodness. The pride of being an African in this season is beyond. Everybody's looking for a fresh story. Africa. Everybody's looking for something different. Africa. I look back. There's a time, I'll confess, I wished I was a white man.
Yeah, I know, a white man, a Caucasian man.
True story. I truly did, because of the opportunities. But now I look up and tell God over and over again, thank you that I'm an African woman.
Yeah, this is Africa's time. Why do you think that? I hear a lot of people who come, especially, and I know you've been meeting them, a lot of a lot of people who come from the States, black people are coming back to the motherland. They see opportunity. I see the Chinese come here and their eyes just go like, wow. But people who live here, it's like we are stuck.
Yeah.
Is it that we told ourselves the narrative of defeat? Because I literally see people walk into Africa and I can literally see their eyes glow, and you meet them 2 years from the minute they walked in, and they're different. They're doing very well in the same environment that we say nothing good ever grows. They are prospering.
Right.
So what is the difference between them and us?
We've had this discussion. It's jaded. We are as Africans and community, and I think every society is that you go to Hollywood, you find people who are jaded. They're like, you'll never make it in this city. It's too hard. Every society has those kind of people who are jaded. The fire has burnt out. They've told themselves the story, because then the story starts going through their head. And if somebody else comes with a different story of prosperity, they will not listen to that story, because they keep telling, and the narrative that keeps going through them is that of, no, this is just how, this is just what Nairobi is. This is just who we are. And I'm not negating their stories or their journeys. I agree, it's tough. They've been conned, whatever the story is. But that doesn't mean we sit stuck, because life passes, life goes by. Tomorrow will be a different day. Tomorrow will be different opportunities. I think it's knowing where you draw the line of the stories that you tell yourself, and tell yourself a different narrative, tell yourself a different story, and then get up and move and make a difference. Yeah. We've been equipped, Pauline. We've been equipped.
I know, but we have to change our mindset.
We do.
It's our mindset that slows us down.
Yeah.
Because our mindset tells us things that are very different from our reality.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time we met, you said, when you walked into Nairobi, you were very impressed.
Yes.
What impressed you?
Life was so different. You know, I left at a time, universities were not operating. A lot of my friends would be out for months. Thank God I went through Daystar. The people we started with, at that time, they were still second years by the time I was graduating. Because universities would shut, people have rioted, there's so much corruption, nothing is growing, money is stolen, roads are beyond horrendous. Businesses are failing. My own parents at the time were going through a fight with the government because of a project that money was stolen, and I mean, nothing was working in this country. To come back and my goodness, I'm finding the same people who I left university are flourishing. They're entrepreneurs, their businesses are doing great, the roads are gorgeous, things are moving and they're working. People are actually jogging wearing the AirPods. We never used to jog. Are you mad? You'll be raped and murdered on the road. Life was frightening in Nairobi. People were being carjacked. Now, I mean, it feels like a completely different environment. I even dare say, even our dressing. I see girls in tight jeans. I'm like, this was before, it wasn't Me Too. What was it called? Your Dress, My Choice came up. People could speak up. The Boniface Mwangi now has really opened up. I mean, they're actual activists. At the time you open your mouth, you're killed. That's the Nairobi I left. So coming back and you're seeing this kind of progress and growth and empowerment that people have embracing the African self. Look at you wearing an African dress. I didn't leave people wearing African dresses. We didn't like who we were as Africans. So that's the Nairobi I'm really proud to come back to.
And I remember you sharing with me and laughing and saying the person you were trying to convince that Nairobi is beautiful was somebody who lived in the city, and they kept saying things like, I hate this city, I hate my country, and you were like, this is a beautiful country, it's a beautiful city, and they kept telling you that's because you've just come, you wait. So as we close the show, I think my thoughts would be, do you have a parting shot for women especially, and women in the creative sector, and girls especially, because we are watched by girls as well, women and girls, people who dream of doing amazing things and being creative people, and maybe they've told themselves the story that that's a nice dream, it can never happen. What would you like to tell them?
Get mentors. I mean, there are women who I look up to. I'll start with my own mother. My mother is such a strong woman. My mother dreams and makes it happen. At whatever, even when she has barriers, she'll find a way to make it happen. My mom rarely has excuses. This won't happen, because she will do it. Again, she's a very prayerful woman. My aunties as well, really, really strong women. Look for mentors who they are. Then look for mentors who are reachable and those even who are not reachable. Like I look at the Wangari Maathais, who are people who are African women who are look like. Then outside that, the Maya Angelos, the Oprahs, the Iyanla Vanzant, Brene Browns. Who are these people you're listening to every single day and you're looking and emulating to be like? And I'm not saying copy who they are, but listen. Those are the ones that I'm saying listen to the mentorship and let it pour into yourself. We never want to grow internally as humans. I'm not even going to say as women, because again, because of the story. The minute you start listening to somebody every day pour into you, whoever that is, they're pouring into you, their mentors pouring, giving you wisdom, you start growing internally. Your story starts changing. You start realizing there's a woman who has gone through this, and if it's even worse. For me to understand what Wangari Maathai went through then, I didn't understand then. We all thought she was a crazy woman. When I go to Karura Forest and I jog there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is what she envisioned those days. She actually made it happen, even though it's beyond her lifetime. It gives me courage that even Zanat, the high school, will outlive me. I want, after I'm gone, this woman dreamt and envisioned this place, it's still happening, it's still empowering other people. As women, we don't realize the strength that we have. Girls have strength as girls. The wisdom we've been given God-given intuition. Listen to that intuition. Pour water, feed that intuition, let it grow and breed and become something that is going to guide you and guide others. Women are natural leaders, natural nurturers. So whoever you're nurturing, whether it's one person or two people, nurture somebody after you. Who is this you're nurturing? Who is this you're pouring into? So for girls, for women, I think that's very important. And know you're a wise person. Pray for that wisdom. I'll say something in Kikuyu. My mom always used to say, pray that God gives you oge wa mushiarire. That is wisdom, that is God-given. And I think it's because we don't nurture that and we don't grow it within ourselves. But as women, we've been given that.
Okay.
Yeah. What does the saying say? Educate a woman, you educate.
Yeah, you educate when you educate a man, I think you educate a person. When you educate a woman, you educate, it's a village or a community.
Yeah,
or something.
And women like you, who for me, I want to say, Pauline, in front of everybody, I think you've been, since I met you, you've been such an encouragement and empowerment. I think, look for women who are like-minded.
Yeah.
And when you collaborate and grow with women who you're like-minded, you strengthen each other. I feel like my collaboration with you and my friendship with you, you pour into me and we're able to grow and be stronger. So look for those people who are like-minded.
Thank you, Nimoh. Thank you for coming to our show. I'm sure we'll catch up with you next year. We always try and catch up with people who we interview and find out how they're doing.
The where are they now
And
section.
we always have a where are they now? Walio, tulio wajua, walienda wapi. So we will catch up with you next year and find out how you're doing.
You.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I think the most amazing thing I've learned from you today is that we often think that going abroad doesn't mean that we come back home. You know, sort of, we disconnect. Like, we don't understand that the world is a big village. It's a beautiful big village, and we can go anywhere.
Yes.
We can keep coming home.
Yep.
We can go anywhere. We can build things anywhere in the world.
Amen to that.
And that's the beautiful thing. The world is a village now.
It is. It
and
is.
you can go anywhere. You can start a company anywhere. You can work anywhere in the world. And so we can dream. We can actually begin to dream about being amazing people, not just in my village, not in Nairobi, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
I can go settle, do whatever I have to do, and then come back home. So thank you for coming back.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. Have a great week. And for those of you who want to live abroad, I love what she's just said. Don't listen and listen. So till next week, have a great, great week. Baraka.